And with a whole quarter to go, this game is over.
Agreed. Do they head into the exits? No. It's still early. Where y'all going?
Wanting a touchdown, lobbing into the end zone, and it's intercepted.
No, it's intercepted.
Oh, it's a touchdown. It was taken away by Cole. Testaverde back to throw. Throws out to the left. He's got Trebek. Touchdown, New York Jets.
How about them Jets?
Dumps it over the middle. Caught. Juggled. Is it held? Touchdown. Good snap. Placement is down. The kick is away. Folks, you don't need me to tell you. John Hall has completed an improbable comeback by the New York Jets, who have knocked off the Miami Dolphins 40-37 after trailing 30-7 going to the fourth quarter.
Welcome to Flashback Sports. We're sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're here by the grace of God, and we have.
You know what that was? That was the good old day.
The good old days.
Yeah, that day is the good old day.
Yeah. So let me tell you something. That was one of the greatest games of all time as a Jet fan, and I want to just thank for people hanging on. And we have, Jet coach, legend Al Groves with us. So Al, thank you for coming on the show with us. We do appreciate it.
Very glad to be with you guys. It's always fun to talk about football, and always fun to reconnect with all the fans of the Jets, Jets.
Okay. And Dave's got a question. The first question that you have, Dave, for Al.
Yeah, well, just to give everybody a heads up, we'll have a little audio difficulty. So if if you'll have to repeat my question, we will. Al, let's start from the beginning. You start your career with Bill Parcells at Army, kind of a same period of time that has Bill Parcells at Army, Bob Knight at Army, Krzyzewski's a coach there. What's that experience like? Were you friends with Parcells at the time? Did you guys know Bobby Knight? I mean, it seems like there's a coaching tree at Army that doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know if Al can hear that or not. Gil, if you can repeat it. But
yeah, pretty quick story on how Parcells and I first met is that at that time, freshmen were not eligible for varsity competition. So Army had its plebe team, and in some of the sports, the plebe teams were coached by recently commissioned officers who had played the sport in college. And obviously that it was to the advantage of West Point to be able to get guys like that up there. But they had to be approved by each individual's branch in the Army to have orders to go to West Point other than where you would normally go. My initial set of orders were to go to Vietnam. The Army administration selected me, but they had to communicate with the Transportation Corps, which is the part of the Army that I was in. Transportation agreed to reassign me to West Point. And so on the first night I was there, some of the officers who had preceded me there took me out to dinner, and the waitress who was between her junior and senior year in college in Washington, D.C., certainly caught my eye in a hurry. And on October the 11th of this year, we will celebrate our 56th wedding anniversary.
Wow. Congratulations. Wow, that's a great story.
But now the Parcells part is coming into the office the next morning was the off his vacation time, was the varsity coach to whom I was assigned to help in recruiting. And that was Bill Parcells, the closest coach. Just so happens the closest coach on the varsity staff to my age. And so in 15 to 18 hours, I made two relationships that have changed the whole course of my life.
Wow. Well, that's that's unbelievable, Al. Great. So I know you're a Long Island guy. You're a Chaminade guy, right? We have to mention that. My two sons went to Chaminade. I did not, but don't hold that against me. But talk about a little bit about you growing up in Long Island and your love of football and how that began.
Yeah, well, my football days started when I was kind of a chubby little kid playing for the Manhasset PBC against teams like the Valley Stream Green Hornets, the Garden City Rams, the Syosset team, I think they were Levittown Red Devils. And so, yeah, I started in that. And one day, a neighbor of Chaminade was playing Roslyn. I remember that. And a neighbor was taking some kids to the game, and I was part of that group that went to the game, and I didn't know anything about Chaminade, and that was my first introduction sometime when I was in elementary school. And all of a sudden that one occasion struck a great interest in me, and I learned more and more about it, and I certainly wanted to go on and play high school football. I wanted to play at Chaminade, and I was in St. Mary's Elementary School in Manhasset, and St. Mary's High School at that time did not have a football team, so I wanted to go to Chaminade. And as an 8th grader, that particular year, the biggest game on the Chaminade schedule every year was against St. Francis Prep. And the game was canceled or postponed during the course of that season because of a polio breakout.
Wow.
And so it was scheduled for the last game of the season. And I remember my father dropping me off at the game. Both teams were undefeated at the time. And the game was played at Chaminade. And after a while, they locked the gates because no more people could fit in.
Wow.
And there were people actually sitting in the trees outside the gates in order to see the game.
Wow.
And so you can imagine the effect that had on an 8th grader. And that just stoked my interest even more about going to Chaminade. And fortunately, somehow, some way, I had enough correct answers on the admissions test to get a chance to go to Chaminade.
Should have helped Gil.
My kids went to Chaminade, not me. Kids went to Chaminade, but they were great stories. I know. Well, that's a great story, Al. And now talk a little bit about, Al. We're talking about how things change with your relationship with Parcells, and how what was it like working for two of the most iconic coaches in recent pro football history? Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick.
Oh, let's just say, Gil, that the sidelines were a lively place, and nobody, player or coach, nobody was safe.
Right.
But actually, I was with Bill on Saturday. The New Patriots had their Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and Bill and Julian Edelman were the two inductees this year. So it was great to be there and see him and some of the players and coaches that we had during the time that we were in New England. And actually, I coached with Bill at West Point, and then when Bill went to the Air Force Academy, I went there with him as a defensive coordinator, and then I was with the Giants with him. And then when he went to the Patriots, at that time I spent a year with the Browns with Bill Belichick, and at that time I went back to New England with Bill. And then, of course, we ended up back on Long Island, where actually, obviously, it all started for me. So I haven't thought about this cycle, Gil, but you got me thinking about it. And I guess it went full cycle from Manhasset PBC to the New York Giants.
Wow.
Al, going back a few years earlier than that, and actually I was going to ask you about the New England, him being inducted New England Hall of Fame, because he's kind of come full circle there. They had not the greatest end of that relationship with Kraft, but a number of years earlier, tell us your feeling on that 1990 Giant championship team that went into San Francisco, beat a great Joe Montana team, and then of course had the unbelievable ending in the Super Bowl against Buffalo. What was that couple months like? That had to be maybe a highlight of your career, I would imagine.
Oh, most definitely. And, over the years, when I went back to coaching in college, when I was the head coach at Virginia, sometimes I would be asked by some people, do you miss the NFL? And my answer was always, during playoff time, I do. That the electricity of and the urgency of the playoffs. There's nothing quite like it that I've experienced. And so that year in particular we had lost the year before against the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
You might remember in
I was there.
overtime game.
I think Dave was there, and he said he was cold. He said he was cold.
It was that, and Flipper Anderson caught a pass
in
overtime.
Kept running.
And headed for the end zone and scored, which at that time overtime was sudden death, and he just kept running. He scored, ran right out the back of the end zone, and the whole Rams team ran after him. And honest to goodness, in 90 seconds since the snap of the ball, the whole Rams team was off the field, and the place was dead quiet. So when the playoffs came the next year, and obviously we had a very strong season, we were 13-3 and had one of the great defenses in the history of the league, with so many really great players on it.
Yeah.
And so we were really very focused on making sure this didn't happen again. And we beat the Bears. I think it was like 31-3 in the first round of the playoffs. And then we were going out to San Francisco, and they had won, I think, 2 in a row, and all kind of set, and the stage was set for the so-called three-peat for them. And we were trailing 13-12 right at the end of the game, and put a little drive together. And Matt Barr, who was a true money kicker, that you put him out there at the end with the game on the line, Matt was going to make it. And he kicks one in the last play of the game. And so we had a chance to kind of do the same thing that the Rams did the year before. Last play of the game, we kicked it, we made it, the game was over, and we were off the field and on our way to Tampa. And that was one of the very few times that there was no bye week in between the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl game. So we flew directly from San Francisco to Tampa and just had that 1 week to prepare. And I learned a great lesson from that I use with many of my teams over time. And when the Bills arrived the next night, they had played at home, and so they came down on a Monday night. And when they arrived, I remember watching the interviews on the sports news that night, and rightfully so. It was the Super Bowl, so what were the Bills there for? Well, to win the Super Bowl. And that's what the Bills players that were being interviewed as they got off the plane and so forth, that's what they were talking about. And yet maybe it came from the fact that the Giants had experience in being in the Super Bowl, or just maybe Bill's direction in preparing the team. But whatever it was, winning the Super Bowl was never discussed on our team.
Wow.
The only thing that was talked about was, how are we going to beat the Bills? And you don't have to think about, don't try to win the Super Bowl, just beat the Bills. And if we do that, then kind of in almost a ethereal sense, if we could do that, then somebody's going to tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, besides beating the Bills, guess what? You guys just won the Super Bowl.
Wow.
And,
Al, we have, if you play video 6, we have the little thing about that 49er game with Matt Barr hitting the field goal. So, Jack, play number 6, a quick video, since Al just mentioned that great game.
Scrimmage, and the Giants have the ball. Lawrence Taylor, and the kick is good. The Giants win it 15-13.
Wow, that was one of the great. Al, I remember that game with the physicality of that. I know when Marshall hit, and just the hitting of that game was tremendous. That Giant, the 49er rivalry was one of the greatest rivalries in that era, correct?
It was, because they were good every year, and the Giants were good every year. And So just as scheduling goes, and the league tried to hook up good against good, many of those years we actually played an in-season game with the 49ers, and then we'd end up playing each other in the playoffs. So those, yes, they had great teams, and of course, well remembered for players like Jerry Rice and Roger Craig and Joe Montana, and but they had some great players on defense, of course, led by Ronnie Lott, who, of course, was a Jet at the end of his career, and Matt Millen, and they were such a strong physical team, and that you could take two teams of that skill overall and end up with a 15-13 game. Just shows how good those defenses were. The Giants were built on a model at that time of being very physical, and with the idea that physical football wins. And to this day, usually, invariably, the more physical team, whatever the style of play is, still the more style of the schemes, the offense and the defense, the more physical team always has a competitive advantage. And so besides just focus on the game at hand, don't try to win championships, just try to win the game. And the other aspect of playing physical football, to answer your question about things that I took away from my experiences during that time, those are two of the main things.
Yeah, Giants had and then rightfully so, particularly that 1990 year, 89-90 year, was it 90-91 year, I guess, it was so much about your coaching staff, because you went into San Francisco against one of the greatest teams of all time, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, probably the greatest wide receiver of all time. You got great backs, just an offensive juggernaut. Same thing with the Bills. The Bills were running roughshod over everybody. You guys devised a scheme that neither one of those teams scored 20 points, which was crazy to think of, that you guys could hold San Francisco to 13 points and then Buffalo to 19 points. And the schemes that you came up with, particularly against Buffalo, but you were physical against the Niners because you had to be. You guys had a reputation of knocking Montana around a bit, and just a scheme that I think you guys played like a 2 or 3 man rush a lot of times against the Bills, drop guys back. I just remembered like it was yesterday, because rarely do you think about the coaching. You think about the players when you think about Super Bowls. I think for that year, I think a lot about the Giant coaching that won the Super. I know you have to have the players, but the coaching schemes and planning, and I think that's obviously what made Belichick and Parcells kind of the legends that they became. But can you speak to that a bit, Al? Because I thought that run that you guys had was, a lot of it had to do with coaching, which, to the average person, goes unnoticed.
Sure. Well, you're right. It starts with the talent. We had some tremendous players on that team, and this is an answer to your question. And for example, last year the Giants were celebrating the 100th year of the New York Giants, and there was an ongoing campaign during the summer to run down the 100. What they didn't call them the 100 greatest players, the 100 best players for the New York Giants over the course of all those years, and over the course of 100 years from the inception of the Giants as one of the charter franchises of the NFL. And of those 100 players, 18 of those players came off the 1990 team.
Wow.
And the other 82 players came over the course of 99 years.
Wow.
That's about right.
Wow.
Either 8 or 9 of the defensive players, of the 11 defensive players, were amongst that 100. And one of the ones who didn't make it, he came up 1 vote short. And so, yeah, we had a lot of talent and a lot of physically rugged and highly competitive players. Wow. And I guess the other lesson that I learned, to get back to your question about our different schemes, yes, we played, without getting into the technicalities of it for the listeners, we played a very different scheme against Chicago, and then against San Francisco, and finally against Buffalo, all within the framework of the concepts that we had. But the lesson that I learned from that was that every opponent presents a different set of issues that you have to deal with. And you have to answer those. You have to solve the problems that those different issues present to you. And that led to our saying, you have to have the flexibility to play the game you need to play. So, for example, against Chicago, it was a stop the run game. And so we set our schemes up to do that. Against San Francisco with their quick throw, high completion percentage game, even though we were at our base, a zone team, we played almost all man-for-man in that game. Now, it was man-for-man coverages that we had in the system all year long. We weren't adding something brand new that the players were not well versed in. Well, we probably did not play any man-for-man the week before against Chicago. We played most of the game in man-for-man against San Francisco to be close to the receivers on this short, quick passing game. And then against Buffalo, it was everything to deal with the K-gun offense, which was the first really of the prominent no-huddle call at the line of scrimmage offenses. And a story with that, Jim Kelly was the quarterback, and so they had a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame runner, a Hall of Fame wide receiver, an all-pro wide receiver. They had a lot of offensive firepower, and Kelly would call the plays at the line of scrimmage based on what the defense looked like. And so on Tuesday, which was the day we put the game plan in down in our hotel in Tampa, Bill said to the players that if Thurman Thomas rushes for over 100 yards, we'll win. We had not given up a 100-yard rusher in the previous 18 games.
Wow.
And the players were very proud of this. And fellas, there was like a mutiny in the defensive players in the defensive room. The players were literally yelling at the coaches in very colorful terms that that's a lot of nonsense. This isn't going to happen. And once it was explained to them that every time Thurman Thomas runs the ball, Jim Kelly's not throwing it to those receivers.
Wow.
And
wow.
And then our two inside linebackers for that game were Carl Banks and Pepper Johnson, very physical players. And so as physical as we wanted to be against the Chicago running game, and as physical as we were at the end of the game when Matt Howard forced that fumble that LT recovered that led to the field goal, we were going to be equally physical on these crossing receivers and make those wide receivers want to go back to the huddle and say to Jim Kelly, don't throw me that one anymore. And so we maintain that the same attitude of being highly physical and beat them up and make them to kind of take the will out of them, just with a different style. But we remain kind of consistent with our philosophy and what we wanted to do.
You know, Al, we had Mark Collins on a show a couple of years ago, and he was saying how they were getting really upset before the game because, you know, the Bills were very cocky. And he talked about the schemes and everything, how they were really going to shut them down and that they were so motivated. But you were the linebackers coach now. You had LT, you had Carl Banks, right? You had Pepper. How is it? Do you consider LT as the best defensive player of all time, Al?
Oh, yes. Sometimes over the years, I would hear certain people say about a player coming into the league or a player who had gotten off to a good start, he'll be the next LT. And I always thought, no, it's going to be a long time until there's the next LT. And I probably won't be around to see him. It'll take so long. But his competitive instincts and his sense of the game where he knew that he would know something's got to be done right now. And he could always kind of sense that moment. And not only did he sense it, but he knew what had to be done, and he went and got it done. Oh. And but I had I knew him right from the start because when he was a freshman at North Carolina was the last year I was there as the linebacker coach. So I actually had him as a freshman in college before both of us ended up with the Giants.
Was he that good as a freshman, Al?
Well, we had 2 All-ACC guys coming back, and he really had not played outside linebacker in high school. So it was kind of a break-in learning year for him.
Mhm.
But it was quite apparent that he was going to be the next great defensive player at North Carolina. Now, I will certainly not say at that time that I was going to predict that he was going to be a Hall of Famer and the greatest defensive player, greatest game changer on defense ever. But it was pretty clear that he was extra special good.
See, if that were me, Al, and I coached him for 1 year, I would be taking all the credit for his great success. That's where he became. You're too humble.
That's great, Dave.
I made him.
God, Dave, you could answer that. God, Dave.
I get it. Yeah. But that's so Al, you follow Bill, championship team. You go to New England. You guys have great success. Get to a Super Bowl with New England, and then you kind of get to the Jets and have a really good Jet team. A great 1998 season. Unfortunately, it didn't end like the way us Jets fans wanted. Felt very good about coming into 1999, and then Vinny, towards his ACL, and then of course in 2000 become the head coach amongst kind of a little bit of a circus. Talk a little bit about those 3 years you spent with the Jets, because you had a lot of highs and lows, I'm sure, and you did a great job with the year that you were there. But you had a couple of kind of crazy years prior too. If you can speak to those that time.
Dave, Al, before you answer that, I want to tell Dave there's only 2 coaches in Jet history that have over 500 record, and we have one of them on our show right now. So Al was a really great coach. And how do you like that, Al? You're a trivia question. I mean, I tell people, everyone says Parcells. People say Weeb Eubanks. He was not. He was not. But somebody says, wait, was Sal over 500? No. But Al, but Dave said, these circus 98, that game against Denver was a crusher. I mean, as a Jet fan, I really thought you guys were going to do it that year. And, we had such hope. Talk about that great year in 98, 99, and also the circumstances, how Belichick was hired and then you became the coach. And talk a little bit about those 3-4 years with the Jets.
Well, one, I appreciate you telling me that about coaches with the winning record. And I can't wait when this call is over with to get downstairs and tell my wife who she's married to. I got a bank of a few credits in there, so in case I need them here coming up.
She's going to ask you why you didn't get a raise then. That's what she's going to ask you.
Yeah. A little quick aside on how we had, before we ever got to those years. So in 96, we were here in 93, 4, 5, and 6. And so the last game of the season for the Patriots was to play the Giants in the Meadowlands on a Saturday. And as I was driving to the airport for the team flight down there, I was listening to a sports radio channel and station, and they made the announcement that the head coach was stepping down after the season. And it really didn't affect me other than, we play the Jets twice a year. They're in our division. I wonder who the Jets will get, but here we've resurrected this program, and we're pretty set here, unbeknownst to any of us, what was going on behind the scenes. And so I just kind of heard it as, well, that's interesting, but okay, let's get on to getting to New York and play the Giants, and actually a game in which we trailed 21-0 at the half, and we won 22-21. And from that little drive up to the airport, the news that I heard, obviously, it led us to something I never expected, and that was we were going to be going to the Jets. And Bill had a formula. We had a formula. When we got to the Patriots, they were 2-14, and within 2 years, we were in the playoffs, and the 4th year, we were in the Super Bowl. So we had a blueprint. Bill had a blueprint and a plan for what you want to do when you get to places like that, and that need a rebuild and a fix. And that first year, I think we ended up with a winning record, but just missed. We got beaten the last game by Detroit and Barry Sanders and missed the playoffs, but we were certainly the rebuild, the reestablishment of the competitiveness of the Jets had started. And the second year, we ended up in the playoffs, and we played that game out in Denver, and we had a pretty decent lead. I mean, not huge, but we had and it was extremely windy. And I remember one of the plays in the game, there was a kick, and the kick started off and went up, and all of a sudden it was almost like somebody had a string on the ball and pulled it back, and the ball fell short. And if I remember correctly, we didn't recover the ball, and we had a lot of trouble throwing the ball into the wind. And so the wind was a factor in the game, but the wind was, was a factor for them too. And they did a better job with the circumstances than we did. And the next year we kind of regressed a little bit, starting with, as Dave mentioned, Vinny getting hurt in the very first game, tore his Achilles, and we finished pretty strongly, but we finished 8-8. And Bill had announced to ownership, there was a clause in Bill Belichick's contract that as soon as Bill Parcells was not the head coach, Bill Belichick would automatically become the head coach. And so Bill made that announcement to ownership on Sunday night after we finished the season, beating Seattle, and we ended up 8-8. And the next day at the staff meeting, but we didn't know this as the assistant coaches. The next day at the staff meeting, he told all of us that he had made his resignation known to the ownership, and that automatically made Bill Belichick the head coach. And so that was kind of what the rest of the day went, and everybody was quite surprised by that announcement. And then the next day, on Tuesday, the press conference to announce Bill Belichick as the next head coach was the following day on a Tuesday, and that's when he went down and to the press conference and made the announcement that he had resigned as the, I think, HC of the NY Jets or something like that. And so that set off, as Dave said, that set off that whole circus. And then from that circus, every circus has a clown. And from that circus, the clown that emerged was the new head coach of the New York Jets, and you're talking tonight.
I tell you, only the Jets. We have a lot of listeners. I got my sons and stuff. They don't realize how, I've seen the Jets great teams. I saw them, at the Sack Exchange. I grew up in the in the 70s when even with Namath and that team in the late 90s. How the city was behind that, and how the Jets are so exciting. And a lot of people, they haven't seen that. It's been 15 years since they even made a playoff game. But you were a rookie, Jet coach, under really crazy circumstances. Did you find it difficult to coach that year with a lot of veteran players?
No, I just tried to be myself and to try to coach the team every day the way I thought the team needed to be coached. I was working with a lot of players, obviously, that I knew. From the previous 3 years, I was working with a number of coaches who I had been with for more than just the 3 years preceding that with the Jets, and doing things the same way. But look, who I was replacing, I can understand in the mind of the players who I was, even though I think they knew me, I knew them, but still I was replacing a two-time winning Super Bowl coach and a future Hall of Fame coach. So, of course, there's going to be some thought in the players' minds that, we just lost no matter who this next guy is, we just lost a Hall of Fame coach. How's that going to be? And I enjoyed coaching pro football very much. I enjoyed the players. I certainly enjoyed being the head coach of the Jets, and I had no intention to do anything but try to make that as good as it could be. And after the last game of the season, which was a very disappointing loss to the Baltimore team that went on to win the Super Bowl. We had 500-something yards, and they had 200-something yards, and we got beat because they ran a punt back for an interception and for a touchdown, and they ran an interception back for a touchdown. And it was really kind of I remembered a very bitter ride home. We took the train down and the train back, and the next day, Bill Part, we're working on the next season. You know, who we're going to extend contract extensions to, who we might be looking at on other teams, and hard at work on that. And one day, 1 hour, Bill Parcells came walking in and said, "Look, I just got a call from the people in Virginia. They want to talk to you about that job." And I had said to them, "Well, I'll because I was an alumnus and my parents lived in town and everything like that." He said, "Well, I'll be willing to listen to you, but don't take that as he's really, really interested." And because I really enjoyed it. There's only, as we know, there's only 32 of those jobs in the world. So I'm pretty pleased to have one of them. And but as things went on and the family situation and being an alumnus and whatnot, it was the only place I would have ever left to go back to. So that's what happened with that. And I guess I left with the second winningest record in Jets history, according to what he told me. So,
Al, I know those are really great years, and I think that game with Baltimore, if I remember, was a Christmas Eve game, and it was I think a guy ran a touchdown before the half, 99 yards, interception. I don't know, I'm trying to remember. I thought it was an interception at the end of the half by the Ravens, and like you said, that was just a very disheartening loss. But
Gil, he should.
Well,
I'm sorry. I was going to say, he should. Al, Gil and I really wish you would have checked with us instead of your wife about taking the Virginia job. Because, maybe things would have been different. We've been Jet fans since the Bad Knees Namath years through today, and the 25 years before you and the 25 years after you have not really gone too well. So we appreciate your time here.
Well, Gil, you're right. There were 21 points, actually 22, because after one of them, Baltimore went for a 2-point conversion. So how do you outgain a team by about 300 yards and lose? Because you have a pick six, a punt run back for a touchdown, and another non-offensive score. Wow. So they get 21 points on plays like that, and without their offense being on the field. And had we won that game, we would have been in the playoffs. And clearly anything that followed in my personal history, and probably in the history of the team, anything that followed after that, the history would have been a lot different if we had been in the playoffs with that game, because I certainly would not have thought of doing anything else but coaching the team through the playoffs and into the next season.
Wow. Al, we got a lot of young Jet fans here, and I talked to you before off the air about Aaron Glenn. Talk a little bit about your relationship with Aaron Glenn, and what do you feel about him, hopefully, coaching the Jets and getting them back to a level of really a lot of success?
Well, Aaron played corner for us when we got there, and we could see right away that Aaron was a little bit different, and that laser focused on his job. He took every minute of every day that he was in the building or on the practice field seriously, and very focused on that. And we could tell right away that he was one of our kind of guys, and really remained within that tribe of guys that all shared the same vision of the game throughout. He was in Dallas with Parcells. When he started coaching, he went to New Orleans with Sean Payton, who's another Parcells disciple. From there, he went to Detroit with Dan Campbell, with whom he had coached at New Orleans and was another Texas A&M Aggie like he is, and was a Parcells guy. So he's brought up, in the same church as we are. He's got the same catechism. He's seen the blueprint that all of us have worked off of, and that has worked every place it's been used. Aaron is always looking to learn more, improve himself, prepare for what's coming next. And in doing so, he's, amongst other people that he's gone to visit, he's come up here 5 or 6 times during the summer to spend time talking about whatever was on his agenda to talk about. So I have a very keen awareness of Aaron and the process that he's working to put in place with the Jets, which is the same one that he went through as a player and as an assistant coach. And he knows that it works, and he knows what needs to be changed. And one of the things, fellas, when there's a new head coach, there's a reason for it. And the reason is there's a lot of problems that have to be fixed. And you can't fix them all at once. If there was just one thing that needed to be fixed, it would be a quick fix. But these turnarounds, these change the fortunes of a team aren't quick fixes, and it takes a while to get them fixed. And but he's got the plan for it. He's trying to working to instill the standards, the values, the expectations, and the accountability that all winning teams must have. And but these things don't happen overnight. And these days, we all kind of grow up in an age of quick fixes and instant gratification, and takeout meals and fast food operations. So these things don't turn around, and a lot of times the perception is, oh, we get a new coach here. All we need is a new coach, and the team is suddenly going to win. Well, there's a lot of things that have to be dealt with, but I'm very confident that he knows the right things that have to be done.
Good to hear. Great.
It's good to hear.
Al, one last question from me. As a college coach, a big part of your career, especially in a power conference, and what's your take on the portal? I can only imagine for a coach it's got to be a little bit of a nightmare. What's your take on if you had a coach today?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question, and one that a lot of people in college football are still trying to come up with the answer to. I do talk to quite a few college head coaches, and none of them are happy with it, but it is what it is, and that's what the rules are these days. And so there's always been changes of the rules, whether they're on the field rules or player acquisition rules, and we all play under the same rules. And so those who can adapt to the new situations better than others are the ones that can come out ahead. But it certainly is a situation that is really without boundaries now. They're trying to institute some boundaries to it, but once it starts out as unstructured and kind of do what you want to do, it's pretty hard to put a fence around it and slow it down. And the NFL was wise enough as things evolved to put in place a set of regulations and rules that govern free agency. And college football the administration of it was not prepared for what many saw as the eventuality that these court cases, which is what led to all of these court cases, were going to end up bringing something like this about. And rather than having a plan in place in case the plaintiffs won against the NCAA, then at least we'll have the thought process could have been, we don't like it, but if it does happen, this is what our plan is going to be. Well, when it did happen, there was no plan in place except let the chips fall where they may. And so now we end up with the chaos that is college football right now.
Yeah.
So, Al, you grew up on Long Island, right? You're a big football fan. We're going to ask you, Mets, Yankees, Giants, Jets. Who was your idol growing up?
Well, baseball-wise, it was the it was the Yankees, Mickey Mantle, Hank Bauer, Gil McDougall, Bob Turley, Ryan Duran, of course Yogi. So you know all those guys. I just have a picture of me as a 9-year-old and whatnot in my Yankee jacket. And then the Giants of those days, Andy Robustelli and Emlyn Tennell, and you know, of course, I don't have any vision of these guys because games were all on the radio.
Oh wow!
But just I'd listen to those games on Sunday afternoons until I was in high school, and at that time, Chaminade played in the Catholic High School Football League. Played all the games on Sunday. And so it was one of the reasons why we would have big crowds for the games, because there was no pro football on television, or very little of it, for people to stay home and watch. So if people wanted to see football on a Sunday afternoon, they went to the games. And many of the teams that we played were in the Bronx and Westchester. But at that time, the only team on Long Island that was playing on Sunday afternoon was Chaminade. So we had big crowds for all the games. Of course, we had Coach Thomas was our coach, and he really is a legendary coach in Chaminade. And all the years that I was, for the 4 years I was in school there, the varsity team won 3 Catholic High School League championships. And the class that I was in, we played freshman ball as freshmen, JV ball as sophomores, and varsity ball as juniors and seniors. And against the other teams in our league on all those different levels, we never lost a game.
Wow.
So we're pretty used to winning. And one of the great things about this game, fellas, whether it's as a player or a coach, is the brotherhood that it creates amongst guys who work together. And my best friends from those days are still the guys that I played with at Chaminade. And the best friends that I have really, as my wife once said to me, she said, you know, all your friends are 40 years younger than you. And meeting all the guys that I coached. And, and she's right about that. You know, they're guys just like me, just a little bit younger, and we're not any better or any worse than anybody else, but what it takes to play this game and how it shapes and makes us a little bit different. And so I do, and I always think, fellas, aren't I lucky that these guys who are younger than me, I like being around them, and they seem to act like they like being around me. And
That's great.
I'm very fortunate to have those relationships in my life. And as we refer to it, whether it's the guys that I played with all the way back at Chaminade or the guys that I coached, it's a brotherhood of teammates that creates relationships that last a lifetime.
Wow. Let's hope in a couple of years that we'll be calling you and we'll be talking about the Jets going to a Super Bowl. And we'll be asking you about how this blueprint is working. You know, let's say a prayer that maybe we'll have to say a couple of novenas, but anything's possible. You know, we can say a couple of novenas.
You might have to do a retreat.
Yeah, not a weekend, probably a year retreat for the Jets. You know, we have so many bets. We could talk about 8 hours about all the Jet things, from the Mud Bowl, from the what do you call it, Gaston roughing the passer, to this, to that, you know, Testaverde, to that guy missing the kick, to this. Yeah. It's just endless, you know. And I really hope that Aaron Glenn could do it. And Al, I remember now when you tell your wife only 2 Jet coaches over 500
records.
You know, she's one.
we got to see who has the highest winning percentage. Maybe Al might be number 1. Who knows? So I guess he is. So.
Yes. For your sake and the listeners' sake, I did hear a little thing on the lead into the show or whatnot about the Monday Night Miracle. We trailed, I think it was 30-7 going into the fourth quarter, and we won 40-37 in overtime. But that was a Monday night game, and on a week from next Monday night, the Jets are playing Miami on a Monday night. This time down in Miami, but on the anniversary of that game, I think the karma is with the Jets.
Okay.
All
Do you?
right,
Are you gonna get Jumbo Elliott to catch another pass? You're gonna sign for that? That was one of the greatest.
Great call.
That was some game, Al. I mean, I think half the people left, right?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, Jumbo didn't catch that ball once. He caught it 3 times.
Yeah.
I know it's a great catch, but Al, I want to thank you for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. We really enjoyed talking to you, and me and Dave really appreciate your time and good bat. Your career, great coaching pedigree, and your career was outstanding. All the teams you coach with and all the players you coach with, all like you said, 18 players on that team, top 10, just greatest of all time.
Awesome.
Lawrence Taylor and Parcells, Belichick, and maybe Al, maybe Belichick needs you to be his assistant again at North Carolina. I think that maybe your next job down there.
Well, during those 9 years that I was the head coach of Virginia, and the Virginia-North Carolina game I think it's something like the oldest continuously played rivalry in the South or something like that. So from when I was in school, it was always the target game. And I'll just say this, and people can interpret it for what it is. But the time that I was at Virginia, the head coach, we were trying to create a little attitude towards that game. And so I never referred to them as North Carolina. They were just the GDTH.
Exactly. Okay. Well, we got it. Exactly.
That's excellent. Oh, Al, I appreciate your time, and if we ever could have you on again, we'd love to have you on. And wish you all the luck. Give my best to your family, and let's go Jets. And we'll have to have you on again when the Jets turn it around.
Appreciate it, Al.
All right, Al.
Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Yeah. Good night, Al.
Spending a little football talk with you and all the Jets fans listening.
Yeah.
Love
Thank you. Good night, Al. Great.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for the time.
Bye. Oh, that was great. I don't really have a couple of minutes, and before I know Al was great. I hope the Jets turn around, but Ken Dryden passed away, Eddie Jockman passed away, Bernie Perron passed away. 3 great goaltenders. Eddie was my idol. I loved Eddie. I mean, if you could play number 5, Jack, really quick, it's 20 seconds showing his feisty play number 4 and number 5 for me, back to back.
Particular play, Jockman has got to get the 5. I didn't even see Howard retaliate, Jim. Howard played it very smart, Bill. I haven't seen it like that this year. He stood there and took about 5 good shots without throwing a punch in return. And he is not that type of hockey player. He's usually out there looking. But when you see the rainbow, the gold at the end of the rainbow, you don't give it up being stupid. Jockman had also put Howard down with a cross-check or a trip before the fight. It could cost the Rangers a minor and the major. And if Howard played it right, the Rangers are going to be shorthanded for as much as 7 minutes, Bill. Could very well be.
You can end it, Jack.
Yeah.
Gary Howard turned down a fight.
Goaltender Ed Jackman was sensational for New York, time and again stopping the Bruin shooters, who collectively were the NHL's highest-scoring club during the 1973 regular season.
Now, Dave, that game when Jockman had the fight with Howard was Game 3, and the Rangers were down 3-0. That was like when Al said, "Yeah, listen on the radio." That fight woke up the Rangers. They wound up tying that game, So Eddie was loved. I mean, when he got traded and he came back to Detroit, you never see that again where the team, they rooted against the Rangers the whole game. I mean,
it's actually been good to see Howard fight somebody his own size, because Howard was 5'8".
Eddie was fighting. Look,
Eddie.
Eddie was great. Dryden, I mean, was a little underrated. I always say he had a great team, but he was a really good. I mean, he won when Dryden left. When Dryden left the next year, they let the guests on. All right, whoever guests are in the back, they want to come on. Let them come on.
Dryden and Perrant, in my opinion, were the best goalies of their generation. There's a couple other guys in the '70s, but they were outstanding.
Oh, hey,
I couldn't stand either one of them. So.
Oh, good. Hey guys,
we got Big Core, John.
A couple of minutes.
Jimmy,
take a quick minute. Go ahead. Who's coming on first?
Let's go. That's it. We'll go right clockwise.
Yeah, that was a great interview, guys. Awesome interview. Regarding Glenn, I'm kind of already sick and tired of this tough act already. It's been 3 games, but it's the same cycle. Wait 2 to 3 years, and the coach is going to be good. Maybe expect a winning season. No. This is the same thing I've been hearing my whole life. Once the 2 or 3 years comes about, everyone's calling for the coach's head, and then the cycle repeats. I'm sick and tired of this. I'm a senior in college. I haven't seen the playoffs since the 2nd grade. Sick and tired of it. I don't want to wait. I want to actually root for a winning team. I'm sick and tired of hearing 2 to 3 years. It's enough.
You come to the wrong place, John.
I want to expect a win.
You could become a Chargers fan.
Yeah, look, people are saying Rome was built it wasn't built in a day, but Rome was built in what, 7 to 8 years? Jets haven't made the playoffs in 15 years.
We got.
Well, how's that?
Matthew, what do you say, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, the Giants are starting Dart this week. Doesn't make a difference to me. The good quarterbacks are good right away. I'll be able to tell on Sunday if Dart's the future or not. I don't want to hear 3 years, same thing. I'm out of patience. If he's good Sunday, he's going to be a good quarterback. If he's bad Sunday, he's going to suck.
Wow, you guys are really angry. You know what? I got to talk. Can I talk to Jimmy? I want someone calmer.
Yeah, Jimmy, voice of reason. Jimmy, voice of reason on TV.
Entirely too passionate right now. Those guys. They did have a heart attack.
We're just numb, Jimmy. That's why.
Jimmy, you like Jockman, right?
Big my God, yeah. He's the reason why I watched the Rangers. Really? And I remember the game in 1969 to 70. Last game of the season, they had to score 5 more goals than the Canadians and win the game, and the Canadians had to lose their game against Chicago. They started the game off. They scored like about 30 seconds in. They scored 9 goals that game. They pulled the goalie, Eddie Jockman. They pulled him halfway through the second period to try to score more goals. Wow. They wound up winning 9-5. Well, that was the good part. Now, the second half had to be Canadians had to lose Chicago Blackhawks. So I remember I had this little transistor radio, and if you set it just right with certain weather conditions, you could hear the game from Chicago. And it was a crackling in the background. It was just amazing. And I listened to that game too, and all the time turning the dial just a little bit to get the volume, get the reception better. And the Canadians lost that game like 9-2 or something like that. So the Rangers made the playoffs. But then in that round, they played the Bruins first series. And that's when Eddie Jockman told Derek Sanderson, there's a bounty on your head. And that's how that rivalry between Sanderson and Jockman started.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Good stuff.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Big Core, you're here, Big Core. Let's get Big Core on before Big Core. Jimmy, I'm happy you look good, Jimmy. Good to be back.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
What do
guys.
you got, Big Core?
Well, that was a great interview with Al Groh. He's interestingly enough, if I ever had a chance to mention something, he talk about aging. He coached the son of a guy that I played football with at Colgate. This guy's and the guy that he coached in I think 2004, 2005. His name was Alvin Pierman II, and I played football with Al Pierman, who was from Hempstead, up at Colgate. And the son that Al coached, Alvin, he led the ACC in rushing his senior year. He rushed for almost 1,400 yards, and he had another 200 yards in pass receiving. And he was the ACC Offensive Player of the Year that year. And I played football with this kid's old man. I thought that was kind of interesting. And just as a side, I always have to get a Steeler thing in there. He also
coached. Give me a second, Core. Hey, Core, 1 second. Hey, Jack, leave us on. If we run out of time, just leave us on, okay? Just want to let Jack know.
Yeah. And Also, before I leave, I want to thank the Yankees because they honored my dad at Yankee Stadium on September 6th as he was a veteran of the game. So, Jack, if you have some of those pictures, if you want to show that to people, but they did a great job. My dad had a great time. The family was there. Matthew was there. John was there. My other son Dean was there. My nephews all were there, and had a great time. So, Jack, if you have those photos, show them for the people and show for our audience.
Maybe gone. I'm not sure. We'll know in a
Jack,
second.
you got
We'll
the
finish
photos?
your story, Cor, while waiting for that.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that he also coached the greatest tight end, and oh, that's a great photo of you. Oh, that's a great photo. Great photo. Great. Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. God bless your dad.
There you go. Wow, that's cool.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Super cool.
Great.
Oh, that's great.
It was, you know what, we had, and he was interviewed by Yes, and it's on Facebook. But they talked about Joe DiMaggio and no coming out of the hospital and playing. There was no he just played. He got out of the hospital and played. That's what what he was talking about. But he really enjoyed that, and the Yankees did that right. They really did a nice job. I can't tell you how much.
It was a great moment. Really, it's a nice moment.
It's just really nice, So I have to tell you that. But Jack, how we doing with time? I don't know what time we started. Do we have any?
I think we're well past the time.
All right. Hey guys, I thank you for coming on. I'm glad that you got to hear Al grow. Let's hope the Jets and the Giants win a couple of games before the end of the year. Now the Yankees, I hope make it. I hope the Mets don't make it. That's my plan. That's what I hope.
Yankees got to take care of the Yankees losing to the White Sox right now. They got to take care of that business. So.
Take care. Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night,
guys. Good job, Jack. Great job getting this back on. Appreciate it.